Welcome everybody. Today's event with Gubra focus on the Q3 report. Guest today in the studio is, as always, CEO Henrik Blou and CFO Christian Morbos. As always, we will record this event and we will of course publish the event later today, and Gubra will probably publish it on their homepage as well. So please post your questions below the window, and I will forward them to management after the presentation. So Henrik, another strong quarter in CRO business and upgrade to your financial guidance for 2024. That's the headlines of today's report. Please, Henrik, carry on.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be able to present our achievements for this quarter today. And we will be starting out just briefly resuming what is Gubra all about. So Gubra, we really are we're experts in preclinical research within metabolic and fibrotic diseases. We have since 2008 built a comprehensive research engine comprising all the laboratories, all the test facilities, all the technologies needed to produce very sophisticated research within these diseases. And this research engine we are using to advance and mature our own internal pipeline programs. That's the discovery and partnership part of Gubra. And also we are selling it as a service to other players, and that's the service part of Gubra. And we are servicing 16 out of top 20 pharma companies in the world, among a lot of other clients, also small pharma, biotechs, etc. And we have the majority, approximately half of our revenue from customers in the United States, and that also means we have a sales office with a handful of people located in Boston. However, the remainder of our approximately 250 colleagues are all based here at our site in Hørsholm, north of Copenhagen. And in this quarter that just passed, we saw a nice development in our amylin program. It's an anti-obesity program, and we are running a phase 1 clinical trial. So in June, we dosed the 4th cohort, and that meant that based on the safety profile we saw, we were actually able to include 2 more cohorts that were optional in the protocol, because we could dose even higher. So we went up to 6 milligrams of dosing, and the last 2 cohorts here we dosed in July and August, and that means because there's a series of follow-up visits after dosing, that the last follow-up visit was in early October, and the CRO, so the company who has conducted this clinical trial for us, have since been analyzing the data, unblinding, and so on. And in a not too distant future, later this November, we will be able to present the data from this clinical study. So that we are quite excited about. Also in the amylin program, we were able to start up the multiple ascending dose. So that is the next part of the phase 1 trial. We started that up in September, and that will be ongoing until late next year. Another pipeline program is our UCN2, high quality weight loss, and that's a different mechanism, and it's in an earlier stage. We have initiated preclinical talks that we will initiate later this year, and we are planning to take it into humans late next year or early the following year. Also from the pipeline, we have a range of collaborations with, among others, Boehringer Ingelheim, 4 collaborations with Boehringer Ingelheim. In July, we were able to communicate that collaboration number 2 has entered clinical phase 1 testing. It's a new triple agonist program, so quite exciting. And yes, that has started up in clinical testing. This is all conducted by our partner Boehringer Ingelheim. A few days ago, we could also announce that Boehringer Ingelheim has decided not to pursue the NPY2R program further in the clinic. So that is another of the collaborations that we have with them. That's the collaboration number 1. And at this point in time, we have no more information to share about this, apart from that they will not be continuing further development into the clinic of this program. From the service part of Gubra, the first 9 months, we've seen a strong growth, continued strong growth, and also some nice EBIT margins. And we will dive a little more into that later on. This has primarily been driven by the obesity and kidney services that we are delivering. So Christian, please share this information here.
Yeah, and I will just continue. So this service business, has been growing by 30% last year and roughly the same this year as well. So clearly, a very strong business, and the obesity being the main driver. Obesity is not a new field to Gubra. We've been there since the company was formed in 2008. So we're clearly benefiting from the high growth and interest to develop new molecules within this area, and they test many companies, everything from small biotech to big pharma companies, come to Gubra to test their new molecules in obesity and also other disease areas, but especially the growth in the first 9 months has been obesity, and to some degree also very high uptake for selling within the kidney space also. So that means that we can grow by 31% for the first 9 months, and also with a very sound, profitable business, with growing earnings by more than 50% compared to the same periods last year, and an EBIT margin above 30%. So all in all, a business that is performing very nicely, both in terms of growth and in terms of profitability. And I'll leave the word back to you again, Henrik.
Great, thank you very much. So here is a look at the pipeline, and you can see the top 4 programs here. The blue ones are the ones that are partnered with Boehringer Ingelheim. They're all within obesity. And as mentioned, the top one there, they will not continue into the clinic, further into the clinic. However, the second one is now a clinical stage program. And then we also have the 2 more early stage collaborations with them. On top of that, we have the collaboration with HEMAP, and that is within bleeding disorders. And then we have the 6 green programs here, the still unpartnered programs. 4 of these are within obesity, and then 2 of them are for other indications. One is for narcolepsy, it's an orexin program, and one is within hypoparathyroidism, and that's a PTH program. So if we dive a little more into GUBamy, that's a once weekly amylin analog for the treatment of obesity. So again, we will be able to share data from humans later this November. So still, this is data from animals that we have here. It's from diet-induced obese rats. And what we see is that if you give it as a standalone agent, GUBamy, there's a nice weight loss. If you combine it with an incretin-based treatment, so that is such as a GLP-1 based treatment, there is an additive effect. And that really means that from these data, it seems as you can obtain a weight loss from some of the treatments currently in development. Then you can obtain a weight loss from the GUBamy. And you can actually put these weight losses on top of each other if you combine the treatment. And the design of this experiment is not to say that GUBamy is better than any of the other ones in mono dosing. It's designed to show that there is this additive weight loss potential. So clinically, we are, as mentioned, running a phase 1 trial. It's a 1-center trial done in Nottingham in the UK. And as customary with phase 1 trials, it's primarily aimed at safety and tolerability. So you can also, in trials like this, try and tease out early signs of target engagement, such as some kind of lowering of body weight, or it could be some kind of delayed gastric emptying or some effect on the blood parameters and so on. And also you can obtain some information around the pharmacokinetics, so what is the half-life in humans, another key aspect for a program like this. So all these sorts of information data we will be able to share in one way, shape or form later this month. So that we are quite excited about. As mentioned in the SAT study here, we were able to dose all the way up to 6 milligrams, and we dosed the last cohort in August, and then there was the follow-up visits until early October, and that is why that we are now approaching soon to be able to release the top-line data from this study. For the multiple ascending dose part, we obtained a regulatory approval earlier this year, and we could start dosing in September. And the 52 participants here will be dosed over the coming time until late next year. Dosings will be ongoing. Then we have the other pipeline program, the UCN2 high quality weight loss program. It's also a once weekly. And really, when you are on an incretin-based treatment, such as the treatments that are on the market today, you obtain a nice weight loss. However, 20 to 40% of this weight loss is based on lean body mass being lost, the remainder being fat mass that is lost. And for some of the patients, it's not beneficial to lose lean body mass, and therefore if we can obtain a treatment where you're losing weight but fat body mass alone, it would be beneficial compared to the currently available treatments. So that's the idea behind the UCN2 program, and the data we present here are also from diet-induced obese rats. And what we see is that if you give the treatment alone, you do not see a weight loss. However, you see a rearrangement of the body composition so that you gain lean mass and you lose fat mass. The more interesting part, perhaps, is when you combine it with a GLP-1 based weight agent or an amylin-based weight agent, such as cagrilintide or semaglutide, because these agents will induce a weight loss of their own, but that weight loss, as just described, is a mix of fat mass loss and lean body mass loss. But if you do a combination, these data shows that you are losing fat mass only, and you're actually gaining some lean body mass. So again, these are data from animals, not from humans, but in our opinion, quite exciting. And that's why we are progressing this program at speed towards testing in humans. We will be initiating the toxicity testing late this year, and then we are planning for a clinical trial to be starting late next year or early the following year. So Christian, that means that we are now at the outlook and guidance.
Yes, a real pleasure to again present strong figures for the first 9 months and also upgrade a little bit of our expectations to the full year 24. So we expect to end up in the higher end of our previously communicated intervals. Now we expect 0 growth for the revenue to be around 26 to 28%, previously 23 to 28. And roughly the same type of narrowing upwards for our EBIT margin in that business also. Now we expect to have an EBIT margin of 30 to 32%, and previously 29 to 32%. So all in all, really good performance in the first 9 months. For the other part of the business, the discovery and partnership segment, we maintain guidance on all parameters. I think that concludes, our walkthrough, and more than happy to take any questions.
Thanks a lot, Henrik, and thanks a lot, Christian, for your thorough presentation. And yes, we already received a couple of questions, and we open up for questions in general, so please post your questions. So by that said, let me start up here. So in relation to Gubra, there's a couple of questions here. So Henrik, you very exactly mapped out what we should expect later this month, but the safety study was of high interest among some of the participants here, because it led you into the cohort 5 and 6, and you're going to announce data later, you mentioned, but can you elaborate anything on the safety profile already now, or is that too early?
Yeah, so what we have told the market is that when you design a trial like this, you can include some optional cohorts. So we have a design where you have 4 cohorts, and you're starting with dosing low, and then you give a single dose to a number of subjects, 6 in this case, and then there will be 2 more getting placebo, and of course it's blinded, so you don't know who are getting what. And then you wait for some time. You have to ensure that the drug is in the body for a certain number of half-lives, and if the safety that you observe means that there are no serious adverse events and so on, if that allows, you continue on to the next cohort. So that's a very typical design for an SAD study, and that meant that we could walk up the various doses, and when we reached cohort number 4, that sort of very top line view on safety meant that we could say, okay, this is enough to go to the authorities and say, we can see it's safe and well tolerated, even though we haven't unblinded the data, and therefore we obtained the approval to start dosing in the MAD study. So that was one aspect. The other aspect was that also meant that we could say, okay, it's still at that highest dose at that level, seems safe and well tolerated, so we can actually go into the optional cohorts and dose even higher. And that is, of course, interesting to us, because the higher we can dose, probably the higher a weight loss we can obtain. And you, in this kind of study, you are interested in establishing how high can you actually go and what types of adverse events will you start seeing. So from the onset, we had these 2 optional cohorts in the design, and we decided to use both of them. And that meant that we were not unblinding any data halfway through, and that was only possible to do after the last subject, visit late in October. So that is why we are sort of or the CRO is analyzing the full body of data and handing that over to us eventually, and then we eventually, when we understand what it shows, are able to communicate that to the market, and that will happen later this October.
Thanks a lot, Henrik. And then you started up the MAD study, and you also mentioned in your presentation you expect a timeline running through 2025. And then again, you're going to get a package of data on the back end of that study. And after that, because this is an internal project, this is fully owned by you. Correct. And we also know that your equity story very much about taking products to phase 1 at the latest. You mentioned earlier on, I think in other presentations, you could dip into the phase 2, but you know, your business is really about early phase and first clinical phases. So this will lead, as I understand it, to looking for a partnership. So if we assume a very strong package of data, would we see a partner in the beginning of 2026 already? I could imagine guys like you already now work for you know, looking at the field of partners and what will suit Gubra as a good partner.
So our strategy is that we can take pipeline programs into phase 2A, no longer than that. So that is definitely a possibility we have here, and we are continuing to develop it at high speed. you're also right. We also have a strategy for partnering relatively early. We decided for this program, the Andersen program, to take it into the clinic ourselves because we saw a potential for a substantial value increase. So that we have done. However, we are opportunistic when it comes to partnering. We are on a continuous basis for all our pipeline program, keeping various parties informed, sort of having an open dialogue. And again, I think it's more likely that a program like this is best suited in the hands of a large player. The obesity market is very big. The trials that you have to run when you get far into the clinics are very large and expensive. The marketing machinery you need to get something like this well onto the market, and so on. All these aspects speaks into that a larger player could be a suitable partner for it. So, but again, we are opportunistic. A partnership could be done based on SAD data, could be based on MAD data, could be based when we are in phase 2. We will await until we think that the right terms are on the table.
And your financial situation, which is like many investors know, very good. Would you obtain a package where you look for a smaller milestone but a bigger royalty, or is it too early to elaborate on that?
It's too early to elaborate on that. We are opportunistic. Again, a deal could have many design elements into it, and we are looking to maximize value from this program. Of course, that's only natural.
Thanks a lot. And then let's jump to UCN2. You have some good preclinical data. You showed what you already experienced. And you also have you informed investors about your timeline. What is realistic in terms of a phase 1 trial? Henrik, there's a question here from one in
yeah. So we haven't designed it yet, but again, I think there's a quite standardized approach here where you need to run an SAD part, an MAD, and so on. And prior to be able to do that, you need to have all these standard toxicology studies done, also a range of other types of studies not related to toxicology but to the stability and so on, and the formulation. There's a range of study that you have to go through. So these kinds of studies are not triggering sort of big headlines. Typically, it's more technical stuff that needs to be in place before you can go into humans. So all that we're working on, and of course the aim is the end goal is to get this into humans as soon as possible. We are trying to keep a high pace here, and late next year or early 26 is our current estimate for when a phase 1 trial could start up.
Thanks a lot, Christian. And then, thanks a lot, Henrik. And then let's jump into the press release from last week with Boehringer Ingelheim. I know you mentioned in your presentation, Henrik, and we know you are a transparent company, but you didn't mention a lot in that press release about the termination. When do you expect to get some kind of feedback from Boehringer on this project? Or let me put it a little different. Could it be? We know the NPY2R is a very good antagonist in terms of suppressing your hunger. But could it also be a simple housekeeping from BI side?
So all options are on the table, and I cannot comment further. And again, it's a valuable partner, and we are in a dialogue here, and it's sensitive. We still have to gather more information, and eventually we will have a full picture, and then we can communicate it to the market.
Thanks a lot. How will it influence your milestones going forward? Because now they terminate the project, so of course some kind of impact it will have. We saw a quite big influence on the stock price the day you announced it. and maybe bigger than what most analysts have in their spreadsheets. And I know it's difficult for you to answer that question, but how will it influence milestones going forward?
Christian, you can speak to this.
Sure. So we have a number of collaborations, and BI1 being one. So we don't expect to get milestones from this collaboration as it has been discontinued. I think it's important to say also that whenever we do a collaboration, we are on dry land as often when we strike a deal. So it has been a very good collaboration where we have obtained upfronts and previous milestones. So that is all good, but as it is in biotech, not all projects will advance to the end. So we will those potential milestones that will come in the end will not be there. That's why we as a company have a number of collaborations, not only BI1, we have 3 other with Boehringer, we have another with a company called Hemab, and we have some previous collaborations with Sanofi, Bayer. So our approach is to fill the pipelines of bigger pharma companies and do that on a continuous basis. So we're not so dependent on single assets whenever they do not proceed to another stage. So I think that's sets us apart compared to other biotech companies that are perhaps out-license 1 or 2 compounds. We do this on a continuous basis, and I think that is quite important in not to over interpret when one program is being discontinued. We have other programs in the pipeline, and this is a natural development, and but of course we hope most programs to progress, and some will and some will stop, and that's very natural.
Thanks a lot, Christian, for answering that question. Let's jump into the CRO business of Gubra. You mentioned in today's announcement, and you did the same the last quarter and the quarter before that obesity is really driving the growth. What else do you see in the CRO business? Because you have a pretty strong business going on there, or are the growth just vanishing in the other areas because obesity is so big? Could you take the investors a little into the CRO business, Henrik?
Christian, I think you can ask this one as well.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we operate in a number of disease areas, not only obesity. We operate within the fatty liver, the MASH. We operate within kidney. We operate in CNS areas, and so on. So, I mean, we're not just an obesity play, but for the moment, the momentum within obesity, the growth, supersedes the other or outpaces the other disease areas. So even though we see nice development in certain other disease areas, also it is the growth pace within obesity is just bigger. But we also saw, especially within the kidney space, a really strong growth there as well. But it's a difficult competitor, the obesity space for the moment. But we are moving forward on many other fields. Also, it is just you could say an unprecedented growth seen in the obesity space at the moment, and it's really, really pleasing to see everything from small pharma companies to big pharma companies turning to Gubra to test their compounds, and that's so the others are not forgotten. It is just a growth pace within obesity is just outshining.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because we know you've been investing in, and you also mentioned that in today's announcement in the kidney models, and here you stand out compared to other companies. You mentioned MASH early on in some of your presentations, and as far as I know, there's a link between obesity and MASH, and hopefully you get a lot of interest from pharma companies in these other areas.
Indeed, we do.
Yeah. Good. I don't know if there's other questions from the audience out there. Then it's just to post the questions, and I will put them forward to management. It doesn't seem like there's other questions coming, and actually we also are very close to the deadline for today's presentation. So first of all, I will say thank you to Henrik and Christian for a very good presentation and answering the questions, and also to the audience for participating in today's event. So by that said, I will hope everybody will have a enjoyable afternoon, and I will with that close the event. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You're welcome.